Yo, what's good? My name is Vivianne Castillo, and welcome to Real Talk. And this is a brief segment on the Choose Couraging podcast where we answer real questions from people building things or from folks who are thinking about it and answer questions from inside the mess of entrepreneurship, okay? So, no hustle hype, no polished, I figured it all out stories. Sometimes these questions are things that y'all send to us. Sometimes these are questions that we're asking ourselves right now. Either way, this isn't about doing business right. It's about doing it with courage, with clarity, and with care. So, if you're navigating uncertainty, if you are rewriting the rules that you have been handed, that have been passed down to you, or maybe you're just quietly wondering if there's another way to build, earn, and live, then you're in the right place. Today, I'm joined by my friend and fellow entrepreneur, Vincent, and we're going to get into it. Our question today comes within the category of what I would describe as systems and change. And the question is, can you really build an anti-capitalist business under capitalism? For me, I'm very big on trauma-informed, human-centered, values-led, anti-hustle, but can people actually build these businesses, or are we just putting progressive lipstick on extractive pigs, right? What does it actually look like to opt out versus performing opting out? And here's one thing I wish more people understood. And then I'm curious, Vincent, about what you think. I think it's really important for people to understand, first and foremost, that commerce and capitalism aren't the same thing. Commerce is ancient. It's the exchange of goods and services rooted in mutual benefit, community, and reciprocity. Indigenous economies, have been practicing this for a long time. Barter systems, local markets, they existed long before capitalism showed up. Whereas capitalism is a very specific economic system, right? Where trade and industry are driven by private ownership for profit, and it often prioritizes extraction over well being. It's often measuring success by how much you can scale, dominate, and monetize. And when we conflate the two, we think that making money must mean sacrificing values, that building a business must mean burnout, exploitation, and disconnection. But I just have this deep belief that it doesn't have to be.
It really doesn't. I think that I'm glad that you made that distinction because it's so important for people to understand that when in this system, this sort of capitalistic system, because I think when the sort of the on the other side of the pendulum swing is being so value based that you're not really looking at the exchange that is taking place, right? Where you are, you know, you romanticize burnout, or if you're fully on the other side where you're extracting labor quietly is another example of how that shows up, or optimizing growth while you're saying that you're not, right? It's and when I say these as examples of being values led without considering the exchange that is both beneficial to you as an organization, as a product, as a service provider, and those who you're providing services with, is that there is also a level of burnout that could happen on that other side as well, right?
Mm.
And so there is this midline, if you will, of really understanding what your exchange and your values are, while knowing that, in order for you to provide more service, right? Or in order to provide more products or more widgets, right? You have to have some sort of exchange as it relates to resources to help you do so. But it shouldn't be on the other side of capitalism where it is just the extraction by any means necessary. And I think that's where the danger lies, is that because it is so focused on extraction for the sake of doing so and growing big for the sake of growing big, is that that's where it becomes a problem. And oftentimes I think the focus becomes on how people see the sort of system, and that being the only way in which to operate, when there really is this other opportunity in which you can work in a sort of holistic way, as you brought up. Before capitalists became introduced into our system, into our economy, there was an understanding of how to trade, how to work with one another, how mutual parties are benefiting, and not just the individuals, but also our
Hmm.
environment as well, right? Because that's a whole nother topic as it relates to how extraction is not only the impacts of extraction as it relates to people, but impact of extraction as it relates to our environment and the communities that we are a part of.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I appreciate this question because I feel like I hear it a lot from entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs who want to do things different, but they're kind of stuck in how that could be possible. And so I've worked with a lot of well-meaning entrepreneurs trying to heal systems while still playing by the rules of extraction. So
That's a
these are kind of like the conferences or the events where they're like, hey, we're about being human centered, trauma informed, but they have scarcity pricing tactics. Early bird, regular, last minute just gets expensive with each one, right? This is, the kinds of experiences where they're completely just inflating the prices just for profit and gain instead of thinking about the people and being more accessible, right?
mm,
And in doing so, they end up betraying their deeper values because their impact, though heartfelt, often feels insufficient or unsustainable. And so a lot of these entrepreneurs I end up witnessing or working with, they're exhausted and they wonder if it's even possible. What I think is possible and what makes me excited is what I like to call the creative rebellion. And this is where you design with courage, care, and imagination. What would it look like if I designed my business with courage, care, and imagination? That's a fun prompt to think about. And this is for me where business can become this vehicle for liberation. It can be rooted in care, it can be guided by courage, and it can be powered by creativity because you don't just critique extraction when you're in this kind of mindset and framing. You're able to get curious about how do I build bold and beautiful alternatives. Let me get super practical real quick, and then I'll kick it back to you. Uh,
yeah.
because something I've been thinking about is okay, what does this look like, right? So for me, it's how do I then price for sustainability and not necessarily prioritizing scale immediately, right? For me, I'm thinking about, the way that you cap your capacity and mean it, which means I say no a lot more than I say yes. Because I'm aware that there is abundance and opportunity outside of the things that are immediately knocking on my door. When I was thinking about humanity centered, one of the first businesses that I created and designed, a lot of people don't know this, but we 1 year gave out at least $80,000 in microloans to businesses who are struggling.
Wow.
We knew people in our community who, maybe they had just lost their job or, they had just had a kid or whatever it is. And we would send Uber Eats gift cards. We would send flowers. We would send help their way, right? Even being able to design our business in a way where 1 year I had a mandatory 4 months off. That's right, 4 months off of mandatory PTO, and we still beat our revenue goals by 20%.
That's so
You know,
good.
so for me, it's like this is really a call and encouragement to be creative. My If I'm charging people more and I'm gutting them, that's a failure on my part for not being more creative in how I'm designing my business.
Yeah. Yeah. Because for me, what I'm hearing when you say this is that you're about, pro sustainability, pro dignity, pro constraints,
Yeah.
and pro long game, right? Which also translates for me as, measuring success beyond revenue, designing
Yeah.
your organization, your business for the human limits. right?
Mm,
Which in your case with the mandatory 4 months of PTO, that's a version of what that looks like. And ultimately, when you are operating in this space, when you are, you know, not trying to be extractive, that you're letting your values shape structure and not just the messaging and not just saying, oh, we are human centered, right? But
mhm.
then, as to your point, you know, creating this sort of like scarcity mindset or beating on that particular drum, but that is really allowing, the way in which you operate again be focused on how you are honoring people, how you are honoring your environment in a way that is sustainable, in a way that elevates people in the long term, right?
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's an invitation of how can I build slower, weirder, and more intentionally?
Yeah.
How do I design my business in a way where I am prioritizing my values over velocity? That doesn't mean that business can't be done. That doesn't mean you can't be profitable. But it's about embracing what I would call is regenerative commerce.
Mm-hmm.
How can I sell with soul? How can I grow with integrity? How can I price with justice in mind? How can I create wealth that doesn't hoard, but instead circulates and uplifts and heals? And I think you can build in ways that don't harm. It just requires you to be more thoughtful, to be more creative. You can be here and make a profitable and good living and a healthy and regenerative life. And
Yeah.
who knows, some of you might F around and, break some generational chains while you're at it. But that's, I
Love
think,
that.
what could be really amazing and powerful about that shift of understanding that capitalism isn't the only way.
Yeah.
Regenerative commerce, more intentionality, more thoughtfulness is also a way.
Yeah. And I mean that shows up in being intentional about the decisions that you make, right? Saying no to misaligned capital is an example of a decision that one could make to help you achieve and to operate within this realm of regenerative commerce. Another decision, more practically speaking, would be to, you know, build a system that reduces dependency on heroic labor, right?
Ooh, say more.
Yes. So essentially, where you are building a system that is holistic in nature, where you're not trying to champion this idea of how this one person or this one individual, that could be yourself or that could be another individual within the company, is essentially you are putting on a pedestal or looking to as in terms of saving your company or saving the organization. Because the reason why you want to steer away from that is the amount of pressure that it puts on people that they're not designed to carry. The
Hmm.
weight of a hero, right? Expecting, a person within a department to essentially carry the entire weight of that department without any support, without any sort of system infrastructure that allows and considers, their humanity. Is an example of the dependency of heroic labor. It's this mindset that these individuals, although they are skilled, although they are intelligent, although they are equipped to do this work, is to say, I'm going to still create a support system that does not allow for you to burn out on my watch.
Hmm. I love that. And so yeah, like when I'm thinking about this idea of can you really build an anti-capitalist business under capitalism, it's understanding that we don't all have to just live under capitalism all the time.
Yeah.
It's going to beckon us to do three things though. We have to be and feel less afraid. We have to learn how to trust our gut again and restore our relationship with ourselves because a lot of times in corporate and hyper capitalistic settings, we're questioning ourselves, we're contorting ourselves for the sake of greater profit and greater productivity, whatever, whatever. And if you're able to be less afraid, if you're able to trust your gut more, you can be more creative. These are
Yeah.
the three things that capitalism really does not want you to untap and flourish in. And if you can really tap into those three things, then yes, it is possible to build an anti capitalist business within the cultures and societies that we're in.
Yeah. And by refusing to just straight up say, I'm not going to be extractive.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for hanging out with us and diving into some of these real and unfiltered conversations. We know your time is valuable, and so we don't take it for granted. If today's episode made you think, if it challenged you, or gave you something new to consider, we'd love for you to hit that follow button on whatever streaming service you're using. That way, you'll never miss an episode when we drop them. And if you want to go even deeper, sign up for our newsletter at choosecourageinc.com, and you'll get updates on new episodes, access to exclusive freebies, and first dibs on coaching opportunities and other resources to help you make bold moves in your life and business. So we appreciate you, we see you, and we're rooting for you. Until next time, keep choosing courage over comfort, and a friendly reminder to drink some water.